Welcome, this is Skull Dixon, and today I have received a final proof of the Hex Crawl Adventure I wrote and designed, The Tale of the Haunted Ravine. You can order this through Drive-Thru RPG as either a PDF or print on demand. The copy of the game I have is the premium color print of the adventure, but you can also order a black and white version as well. The adventure is originally designed for 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons, but has so few actual roles in the adventure that you can easily convert it to any other game system. Like many other Hex Crawl adventures, this adventure is not a linear storyline for players to play through, but a space for them to explore. There is a backstory to the whole setting. How much of that story the players will encounter is up to where they explore and up to the DM as well. If you get it printed, it will be saddle stitched, as you can tell from these staples on the side. It will have this glossy cover as well, which fully wraps around to both sides. If you receive a copy of this game that is not saddle stitched, you should contact Drive-Thru RPG directly and get that issue resolved. My first proof came in as perfect bound, and that kind of ruins some of the aesthetics that are contained within this book, because it is not designed, it's not laid out for perfect bound. The adventure consists of 5 main parts. The ravine is full of dense fog that makes traveling through the ravine very difficult and a challenge. Normal navigation and tracking tricks don't work, and even your best ranger can get lost. The fog is not natural, but is a byproduct of the wild necrotic energy that is let loose in the ravine a long time ago. Another side effect of this is that the undead of the ravine are stronger than normal, and any character who dies in the ravine will come back as undead. There's this random table to see what kind of undead they return as. If that was not enough, from being in so much wild necrotic energy, the characters might suffer from strange side effects as well that are seemingly permanent. How much time passes in the ravine and how to navigate through the ravine is an important step in this hex crawl. The game lays out how best to keep track of time, and how successful and failed navigation checks affect the time, which gets into the next part. While traveling through the ravine, the players can pick various positions or roles that allow them to take charge when it comes to making certain skill checks that can help or hinder the party as they travel. These positions include leader, the player who will be leading the group through the fog from one hex to the next. The scout is the party member who is making stealth checks so that the party doesn't encounter any wandering monsters. And the morale officer is the party member whose job is to check in with everyone and make sure they are doing well. These are the 3 main positions, and then there's also the mystic advisor, which allows a spellcaster to take a certain amount of time to feel the flow of mana within the ravine to get additional information. There are outcomes depending on how successful or not successful each one of these positions are, and they can only be rolled by a single player with no additional help from other players in the task. It is just a straight roll without any type of magical boosts or player assistance. And each one of these positions can make their check once per hex. For instance, the scout, who's helping the party avoid wandering monsters, as it were, when they fail, the party encounters a wandering monster. And then there's a table for wandering monsters that you roll upon. If you roll 5 or less, for instance, the wandering monster encounter starts as a surprise to the players. and the monsters get a surprise round. Next, the book describes the various factions and NPCs that you can encounter in the ravine. It gives you a brief glimpse at the factions and what their goals were, as well as what symbols they used. As you can see, each one of them has their own flag. The NPCs each have a phrase or two that they are likely to say when encountered. They also list what kind of undead they are, a little background information about them, as well as where to find them in the ravine and what they want and don't want. So for instance, Azyog of the Yellow Hands, he's likely to say when encountered, more sacrifices for the altar. And he can be found in very specific hexes within the hex map. He wants more power and to finish the ritual that he began in life, but he doesn't want the black altar, the MacGuffin of the ravine, to be destroyed or to displease his god. And there are a number of these NPCs that can be encountered. This gets into the hex map and the substance of the adventure. The hex map, which can be found at the very center of this book, consists of letters and numbers. The letter locations are special locations that always remain the same no matter how many times you pass through this area. You can play through the ravine any number of times as you want, but every time hexes D, H, J, the rest of them will remain the same. What happens there will continue to happen. Whereas the numbers are randomly determined with the tables found in the back of this book. Each one of the special locations has a full description, as well as possible dialogue or encounters that take place in them. And this, of course, the map itself is found at the center of the book. If you get it printed, it's very easy to take out since it's at the very center. If you get the PDF, there's also a PDF that you can download for free of the map at a slightly larger size, so that you can freely print this out. And if you just want the map itself, you can easily just download it and print it and use it for your own purposes. There are different types of encounters that can be had depending on what you roll. They can be creature encounters, weird encounters, obstacle encounters, or horrific encounters. Creatures encounters tend to be combat encounters, but obstacle encounters are skill challenges that the players need to describe how they bypass. And the book goes over how to use skill challenges. Skill challenges was something I encountered, in the last few years, and was pretty heavily used during 4th edition. And it took me looking into skill challenges and how they're used to start using them myself, and I found them to be a good tool, so I included them within this Hexcrawl. And I understand that it's still one of those concepts that not everybody's aware of, which is why I included, to the best of my ability, a description on how to use them. When you have a random or a creature encounter, you roll off this table. I have left enough space off to the side, as you can see, so that you can make your input your own monsters if you want. I have put the list that I'd used when I ran this. And as you can see, it either includes page numbers and which book they came out of. I used a number of third-party and core Dungeons and Dragons monsters. And then you get into obstacles. For instance, your path is blocked by a chasm that extends out of sight into the fog. Many stones and boulders can be seen floating above the chasm's edge, some reachable from where you stand. The fog makes it impossible to see all the way across, or just how deep the chasm goes. Any stone dropped into the chasm begins to float, but anything else dropped into the chasm will fall out of sight. How will you get across this chasm, or do you want to turn back and find another way? All the obstacles end in a similar fashion. They always ask if you will find a way across or through the challenge, or turn back, which is always an option. Weird encounters are not necessarily combat encounters, just like obstacles. They're just strange things that can happen. So, for instance, it begins to rain hot blood on you. Red liquid is so hot that it burns your skin. Nearby, you could take cover under boulders and under an overturned wagon left from the ancient battle, but you'll need to run to get there. Do you take your chances and run further into the storm and possibly get burned, or do you turn back and find a new way? The rain lasts 2d12 plus 2 minutes. And as you can see with this one, I hint at the fact that the rain is hot enough to burn your skin, but I don't give any particular rules on how much damage the players would suffer from that. I leave that up to the DM. Horrific encounters, on the other hand, are supposed to be truly terrifying, and when you encounter them, you're supposed to make some kind of save versus fright or horror, as in D&D, or if this was like Palladium, it would be like a save versus insanity type of roll, or fear. They also have a save versus fear. So, for instance, out of the fog ahead, you see a wall made of living flesh and bone, slick with mucus. Twisted faces of humanoids and creatures stare and gape at you. As you watch this sight in abject horror, a large crow lands on the wall. At first, nothing happens, but then it cries out as it is absorbed into the living wall. Do you try to find a way around the wall, attack the wall, or do you turn back and find a new way? With this horrific encounter, I have pulled out the classic AD&D living wall that is in the old monster manuals, and just through description told you everything that you needed to know if, for instance, your game doesn't have that creature, so that you can easily write up your own stats for it, or know where you can look it up online. And then, of course, I included an extra table as well if you needed to start inventing additional stuff. That being said, the last thing that I can really tell you about this adventure is the possibility of random magical effects. In this adventure, occasionally characters will encounter strange magical effects and mutations that can leave a lasting effect on them. This book does not contain any type of table for random magical effects. However, there are plenty, very large and extensive and free lists that you can find online. When I ran this, I had 2 separate ones that were a D1000 roll. And that is the Tale of the Haunted Ravine as a kind of quick overlook. Like I said, you can find it on DriveThruRPG, and you can get it as a PDF or as a printed copy. Thank you for your time, and I hope that you enjoyed this little preview and you get a copy for yourself. Until next time, thank you.